My apartment complex had one rule that nobody ever explained to me, and it was if you saw the woman living in 3B, don't ever let her know that you're alone. I moved into a small apartment complex when I was 22 years old. It was a very old complex, but it was clean and it was cheap enough that I could pay the rent. There was only 12 other apartments by me, so I got to know my neighbors really quick. I never really saw her outside of her apartment, but I never really saw her going out of her apartment complex, but I did see her out like in the hallway and she would just be standing there sometimes. I don't know if she was like totally in her right mind, so I just kind of left it. But I do remember the first time I ever saw her, I did smile and I said hello, and she didn't respond. She just kind of stared at me. She didn't smile or anything, and then she slowly walked back into her apartment. And that was, I don't know, it was a little bit weird, so I went and I brought it up to my downstairs neighbor. He asked me if she talked to me, and I said no, she didn't say anything back. And he said, oh, okay, well just leave it alone, like just don't ever let her know when you're home alone. And I thought maybe it's because like she would want to like come over and hang out or something, like she just needs some company. But then he explained, he's like, no, she has a habit of like knocking on people's doors really late at night asking if they're alone. Fast forward months later, I was coming home from work. It was about 11 p.m. at night, and I passed her on my way into my apartment, and she actually said something to me this time. She randomly just said, is anybody with you? And out of instinct of just telling the truth, I said no. And then she did like a smile, and it wasn't like a normal like friendly smile. It was like a very small like I don't know, it was creepy. And then she went back into her apartment. I immediately regretted how I answered. Nothing really happened, but the next morning I went and I asked the landlord about her, and he told me that she's lived there for about 30 years. He said she doesn't really bother anybody, so just like leave her alone. Then one afternoon, I came home and I noticed something really strange. I passed by her apartment and her door was like wide open. So I just kind of like peeked inside, and there wasn't any furniture. There wasn't any pictures. It was like nobody had been living there, so I just assumed that she moved out. So again, being the nosy neighbor that I am, I went and I talked to the landlord. And then he finally told me the truth. He said, okay, so I didn't tell you this before, but apartment 3B has been occupied in 8 years. And I was like, what do you mean? I literally brought this up to you like a while ago. And he's like, yes, I don't like to tell people this because I know they get spooked, because there are people that have had occurrences where they've ran into like this elderly woman. And I was like, no, like she's literally talked to me before. And he said, what did she say? And I said that she asked if I was alone, and that's when he went a little bit quiet. And he's like, yeah, so the lady that passed away 8 years ago, she had a habit of asking neighbors if they were alone. I try not to let this get to me, but it just spooked me every single time I passed the apartment, because I know that I saw the spirit of this woman. I'm not crazy. And so I actually did wind up moving about a month later, but here's the thing that I can't explain. The day that I was moving out, her apartment was wide open again, and I saw like a pair of gray slippers, not right in front of the doorway, but kind of off to the side. So like you'd have to like somewhat peek in to see them. And I know that those gray slippers were not there before. After I saw that, I just kind of closed the door because my brain started to spiral on what that could have been. And then that was the first time that I really thought about why everybody kept telling me like that to never let her know that you were alone. And it's because whoever was using that apartment was obviously paying attention.